What's up, guys? Justin here with TheSketchUpEssentials.com, back with another SketchUp furniture modeling tutorial for you. So in today's video, we're going to model out a stool inside of SketchUp. So we'll go ahead and walk through this step by step. So in addition, if you have any questions or anything you'd like to see on the channel, make sure to leave a comment down below to let me know. Now let's go ahead and just jump into it. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to start off by roughing out the legs on this stool. And so one of the things you need to be aware of when you do this is you need to be aware of how many legs you're going to have, because that's going to be kind of important. But we can also adjust this really quickly using this method. So the first thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to leave my default model in here just for a second for scale. But first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a face right here. And I'm going to use that as a canvas in order to draw my stool detail on. So now I'm going to go ahead and delete out my default model. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line that's going to represent the profile of the leg. So the way that we're going to do that is we're just going to draw a line that goes up and in, then also that goes across like this. And so when it goes across like this, what we can do is we can then round this off, and then we can extrude a tube along this path in order to make our leg. So one thing to be aware of when you do this is if you tap the A key to activate the arc tool, what we can do is we can draw an arc from here to here. And notice how if you find a point where this is purple and you click, it's going to automatically round off this edge between this point and this point. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete out my canvas so that I just have this shape. And so now this is going to make up the leg of my stool. And so depending on the design that you have, you might have 4 of these, you might have 3 of these, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to create one. We're going to make it a component, and then we can kind of play around with that. So I'm just going to activate the circle tool by tapping the C key. Then if I tap the right arrow key, it's going to lock that inference to the red axis. Then I can click on this point, move my mouse outward until I get whatever the thickness of my tube that we're going to use. So we'll go ahead and we'll call it an 1/8 of an inch, and we'll see if this works. And so now what we're going to do is I'm just going to drag a right to left selection box over this to select my path, and then use the follow me tool in order to extrude along here. So you can see how what that allowed me to do is that allowed me to extrude this circle along this path in order to create my support. So now I have a support that goes all the way down to the ground, just like this. So we're going to take this whole thing, we're going to right click on it, we're going to select the option for, and you may need to triple click on this in order to get everything, but then we're just going to right click on it, we're going to select the option for make component, and we're just going to call this stool leg, just like this. So now you've got a couple different options for what you can do here, and a lot of this is going to depend on how these legs are going to come together. In this situation, this stool is going to have 3 legs. So what we want to do is we want to use the rotate tool in copy mode in order to rotate this along a circle. So all we have to do is just select this, tap the Q key, and then we want to mouse over the central point. I suppose we can actually use the central point right here, and we can tap the up key in order to lock this protractor to this blue axis. So then we can click to set a base point, click again to rotate this, and you want to tap the control key in order to put this into copy mode. And so because this has 3 legs, we're going to take our angle and we're going to go ahead and we're going to rotate this 120 degrees. So we're just going to type in 120 and hit the enter key. And then without clicking on anything else, we're going to type in times and hit the 2 and hit enter. So what that does is that creates 2 copies each at 120 degrees. And these are kind of overlapping right here. I'm okay with these overlapping right here. If you don't want them to be, you can come in here and double click on one and use the push pull tool in order to push pull it back a little bit so that you don't get an overlap. So that's just kind of a personal preference thing. But notice that because these are copies of the same component, when I adjust one, the others adjust as well. So now what that gives us 3 legs along our table. So now what we can do is we can come in here and we can create our chair or our seat. So to do that, we can just tap the C key, and then I'm going to go ahead and tap the up arrow key to lock this to the blue axis. And for right now, you can see how this line is still in here from when I originally drew this. I'm going to use that as my central point. So we're just going to draw a circle right here. And I'm going to move my mouse out, and we'll say that this is going to have a radius of 6 inches. We'll call it 6 inches for right now. So what we've done is we've drawn our circle in here. Well, one thing I don't like about this is how choppy this edge is. So I don't have enough segments on this for this to look smooth. And so what we're going to do is we're going to click on it. We're going to go over into our entity info. We're going to adjust our number of segments to something like 48. You can see how when we adjust this to be 48, this looks a lot smoother. You could take this a little bit higher. In this situation, as long as you're not going to use this, so usually we try to balance the number of segments in here, because the more segments you have in here, the smoother it's going to look, but the more performance it's going to take up. In this situation, I'm not super worried about that, so I might even bring these up to 64. And then what we can do is we can just push-pull this using the push-pull tool. So tap the P key, push-pull it up, and we'll give it a thickness of, we'll call it 3/4 of an inch right now. And then I'm just going to triple click on it to make it to select everything. Right click, and we're just going to make it a group. I'm just going to move it up so that it's not intersecting with these tubes, but instead it's sitting on top of them. So you can use inferencing in order to do that. So now the seat is sitting right on top of the legs right here. So there's a few different ways that you could come in here and you could round off these edges. So personally, I like to use extensions for something like this. So the extensions round corner or Fredo corner are really good for this. I will link to those in the notes down below. You could also draw an arc along here and then extrude that along this path in order to round it off. I'm going to use Fredo corner in order to round off the corners in here, just because that's going to be a lot easier. So I'm going to select this. I'm going to use the extension Fredo corner. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that these are both selected. And then I want to bring my radius down to something like, we'll start with 1/8 of an inch and see how that looks. And I think that's going to look good. You can see how what that's going to do is that's going to round off your edge with 1/8 of an inch curve. So I'm just going to click right here, and it's going to come in here and it's going to round off those edges. So now I have this nice rounded off wood seat right here. And so now we've got our seat on here, it's centered along the top, and really the only thing that we need to do is we need to add in our circles down below, or our supports down below. And so the way that I'm going to do that is I'm just going to find the central point up here again. I'm just going to draw a line down. I'm going to go ahead and start by drawing a line all the way down to the ground. And so what I want to do right now is I want to find the point at which the edge of my my circle is going to intersect with the edge of this this tube right here. So the way that we're going to do that is this is centered on this red axis. So we're just going to draw a line off of this a little bit, and then I'm going to draw a circle, and I'm going to tap the C key, tap the left arrow key to lock this to the green axis. I'm just going to draw 1/8 of an inch circle like this. I'm going to move it up so that the bottom of this is aligned with the bottom of my object right here, and then I'm going to move it over so that it intersects with this edge. So what that's going to do is that's going to give me a piece that basically intersects with these legs around here. And then I'll just draw a circle from my center out to this point. I'll select this, then I'll activate the Follow Me tool and I'll extrude this tube along that path. Then you can delete out your extra just like this. So then we'll do the same thing. So we'll draw a guideline out here so that we have something to draw our circle on. So something like this. We'll draw our 1/8 of an inch circle and we'll delete out this line. Then we'll move this out along the red axis until it intersects right here. And then I'll draw a circle out to this point. And then we'll use the Follow Me tool in order to extrude our second tube, just like this. And then you can either delete out all of this guide stuff or you can just hide it. But you can see how what that's done is that's given us our three-legged stool inside of SketchUp. And then from there, you can add materials and make this look kind of however you want it to look. So that's where I'm going to end this video. Leave a comment below and let me know what you thought. Was this helpful to you? I just love having that conversation with you guys. If you have any questions or anything you'd like to see on the channel, leave a comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, please remember to click that like button down below. If you're new around here, remember to click that subscribe button for new SketchUp content every week. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. I really appreciate it, and I will catch you in the next video. Thanks, guys.